Ethan Hale drew his revolver before his mind even caught up to the scream. His horse reared hard. He didn't let it. Another cry tore across the Wyoming plains, a woman alone breaking apart. He spurred the animal forward because riding toward a stranger's pain was the only kind of prayer a ruined man had left. If you believe a broken soldier can still find grace in the unlikeliest hands, subscribe to our channel and stay with us till the very last word. Drop the name of your city in the comments. I want to see how far Mary's story carries tonight. Ethan Hale had spent 11 years teaching himself not to turn his head at the sound of a woman crying. He broke that rule in under a second. The scream came again, thinner this time, crushed at the edges like something being folded in on itself. He kicked the bay gelding into a hard run, and the revolver stayed in his right hand, because a man who rode alone in this country without a gun drawn at a scream. Like that was a man who'd already decided he didn't want to live long. "Come on," he muttered to the horse. "Come on, come on." The second scream cut off in the middle. That was worse than the scream itself. He pulled up hard at the top of the rise, and what he saw below him didn't surprise him exactly. He'd seen enough of the frontier to know what a broken wagon meant, but something deep in his chest clenched anyway, some old muscle he thought had died at Shiloh. A canvas-top wagon, tipped sideways, one wheel splintered clean, a mule down in the traces not moving, not going to move again. And a woman on the ground beside the wagon propped up on one elbow, her other arm wrapped around her belly, like she was trying to hold something inside her body by pure will. Ethan dismounted before the horse had fully stopped. "Ma'am," he called out. He kept the revolver low but visible. "Ma'am, I'm coming down. I ain't gonna hurt you." Her head snapped up. The look on her face was the look of an animal in a trap. "Stay where you are." "Ma'am?" "I said stay where you are." She fumbled at her hip and came up with a single-shot derringer, small and beautiful and absolutely worthless at the range he was standing at. She pointed it at him with a hand that was shaking so hard he could see the barrel tremble from 30 feet off. He stopped walking. He held up his left hand. "All right," he said quietly. "All right, miss. I'm stopped. Drop the gun." "I'll holster it. That suit you? Drop it." He slid the revolver back into its holster slow enough for her to watch every inch. "Ma'am, I got no quarrel with you. I heard a scream. I come riding. That's the whole of it. You heard nothing. I heard plenty. Then unhear it and ride on." He would have laughed if her face hadn't been the color of river clay. She was young, maybe 22, 23, with dark chestnut hair stuck to her temples with sweat, and a dress that had been gray once and was now something else, something darker soaked through at the hem. "Ma'am," he said, "I reckon you know what's happening to you." "I reckon it ain't your business." "No, ma'am, I reckon it ain't, but I can't ride away from it either." "You surely can." "Could," he agreed. "Ain't the same thing." She made a sound, then half laugh, half sob, and her arm gave out, and she slumped back against the overturned wagon with the derringer still clutched in her hand, pointed now at the sky, at nothing. "Oh God," she whispered. "Oh God, oh God. What's your name, ma'am? Get away from me." "My name's Ethan Hale. I was a soldier. I was a husband once. I ain't neither of those things now, but I know what's coming for you, and I'm telling you plain, you can't do this by yourself. I've done harder. Not this. You don't know what I've done." "No, ma'am, I don't. But I know what a woman sounds like when her body's fixing to split in two, and that's what I heard a mile back." Her eyes closed. Her mouth opened in a shape that wasn't quite a word and wasn't quite a scream. It was the thing in between. The sound a person makes when the pain gets so big, it pushes past language and comes out as pure noise. Her whole body tightened. Her knees drew up. Her hand opened, and the derringer slid out of it and landed in the dust beside her hip. Ethan was walking before he decided to walk. "Easy," he said. "Easy now, miss. Breathe. You gotta breathe." "I can't." "You can. Look at me. Look right here." She didn't look at him. She looked past him, past his shoulder, past the rise, and her face went white in a different way. A worse way, and she said a word so quiet he almost missed it. Thomas. He turned his head. There was a man on the other side of the wagon. Or what had been a man. Ethan had seen a lot of dead in his life, and he knew the shape of it from any angle. This one had gone under the wheel when it splintered. His leg was bent in a direction a leg wasn't meant to go, and his face was turned up toward the sky, and his eyes were already flat. "Oh," Ethan said. "Just that. Oh. He was trying to fix the axle. He told me to stay in the wagon. He said—" Her voice broke. "He said he'd have it running before sundown." "How long, ma'am?" "Since yesterday morning. Yesterday. He wouldn't wake up." She wasn't crying. That was the part that tore at him. She wasn't crying, she was just talking flat and steady, like she was reading a ledger. "I tried. I sat next to him all night and I told him the baby was coming and he had to wake up. He wouldn't wake up." Ethan knelt down slow, the way a man kneels next to a hurt horse. "What's your name, Miss Mary?" "Mary what?" "Whitaker. Mary Whitaker." "Mary, I need you to hear me." "I hear you. That man over there that was your husband." "Thomas?" "Yes, Thomas." "Mary, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, but right now I need you to put your hand in mine and squeeze when it hurts. Can you do that?" "No." "Mary." "I don't know you." "No, ma'am, you don't." "I don't know you, and my husband is dead and my baby's coming and I don't. Squeeze my hand, Mary." She didn't. So he took her hand himself, gentle as he knew how, and he folded her fingers around his own and held them there. "Squeeze," he said. She squeezed. Her grip was weak, and then it wasn't weak at all. It came down on him like a vice, like every bit of the fear and the grief and the pain funneled into her one hand, and he let her. He let her crush his knuckles until he heard something in his own hand click. He didn't pull away. "That's it," he said. "That's it, ma'am. You go on and hold tight." "I can't do this." "You're doing it." "My husband's dead." "I know, ma'am. My husband is dead, and I am going to die right here in this dust, and my baby is going to die with me." "Mary, don't tell me I won't." "I ain't telling you nothing. I'm saying your name." "Why?" "So you remember I'm here." Her eyes opened. She looked at him for the first time, really looked. Not past him, not through him, and Ethan Hale felt something shift inside his chest that he had spent a decade making sure couldn't shift anymore. It was a small thing, a crack, but he felt it open, and he knew, in the way a man knows a storm is coming 2 days out, that he was not going to be the same when he rode away from this patch of ground, if he rode away from it at all. "You should leave," she whispered. "I know. You don't know me. I know. You don't owe me anything. I know, Mary." "Then why?" He opened his mouth to answer her, and nothing came out because the truth of it was something he hadn't said aloud in 11 years, and he wasn't sure he could get it up his throat. A woman, a wife, a child that had never drawn a breath, a cabin outside Lexington, a door he'd come home to and found open. He swallowed hard. "Because I had somebody once," he said, "and there wasn't nobody around to come when she screamed." Mary's eyes filled up. Not all the way, just the rim. "Oh," she said. "Yeah. Oh, Mr. Hale." "Ethan? Ethan. Squeeze my hand, Mary." She squeezed. It was softer this time, like she was holding on to him instead of holding on to the pain. He took his hat off with his free hand and set it on the ground beside her, and then he looked, really looked at where they were, and the soldier part of him, the part that had stayed alive in the Shenandoah when better men hadn't started counting things. Dead mule. Wagon on its side. Water barrel cracked half full. Dead man under the wheel. Prairie in every direction for 20 miles. Sun 2 hours from setting, and his eyes caught on something in the dirt about 15 feet from the wagon. Boot tracks. Not hers. Her feet were small and bare. Not her husband's. His boots were still on him, and the tread was different. These were fresh. Deep at the toe. Someone had walked up close to the wagon, stood there long enough to shift his weight twice, and walked back the way he came. Heading west, toward where Ethan had just ridden in from. Ethan's jaw tightened. Mary. Did anybody come through here before me last night this morning? Anybody? I don't. She shook her head. I don't remember. I was asleep some. I think I was asleep some. You didn't hear riders? I heard you. Before me, Mary. Any time before me. I don't know. He looked at the tracks again. One man. On foot, which meant his horse was nearby. Which meant he'd walked up to a broken wagon with a dead man under it, and a screaming woman on the ground beside it, stood there long enough to see what he was seeing, and then turned around and walked away without offering so much as a canteen. That wasn't a passerby. That was a scout. Ethan felt the old cold thing in his belly, the thing that had kept him alive through 4 years of a war he hadn't wanted to fight, settle in and get comfortable. He kept his voice steady. All right, Mary. All right, what? All right, we're moving. You can't stay here, and I can't carry you clean to the next town, so we're gonna meet in the middle. There was an old line shack about 4 miles east. I passed it coming up. You understand me. I can't walk 4 miles, Mr. Hale. Ethan. I can't walk 4 miles, Ethan. No, ma'am. You ain't walking. You're riding. I can't. Hush now. Hush. Another contraction hit her, and her back arched off the side of the wagon, and the sound she made this time wasn't loud. It was worse than loud. It was small and swallowed and private, and Ethan understood suddenly and completely that she was running out of the kind of strength that made noise. What she had left was the quiet kind, and the quiet kind ran out faster. Mary, listen to me. Listen. I'm listening. How close are the pains? I don't. Count them for me. Next one comes, you count to me till the one after. I don't know how long they... Just count, Mary. She nodded. Her fingers were still laced through his. He didn't think she knew it anymore. Ethan? Yeah. Don't leave me with him. With Thomas. Don't leave me on the ground next to him. No, ma'am. Promise. I promise. Say it. I ain't leaving you on the ground next to him, Mary Whitaker. I swear it on what's left of me. She closed her eyes. Something in her face eased just a little, not the pain. The pain wasn't going anywhere but the other thing. The alone thing. That eased. He stood up. He didn't let go of her hand right away. He pried his fingers loose one at a time and set her hand down in her own lap with the care a man uses for something he knows he can break. Then he walked around the wagon to where Thomas Whitaker lay, and he crouched down next to the dead man, and he spoke quiet so Mary wouldn't hear. I don't know you, mister, he said, but I aim to see your wife through what's coming, and I aim to see your child draw its first breath. If you got any sway where you are now, I'd be obliged. He reached out and closed the dead man's eyes. Then he stood up and looked west toward where the boot tracks pointed, and his mouth went flat. There was a smudge on the horizon. Dust. Could have been cattle. Could have been wind. Could have been a man riding hard back toward somebody he wanted to tell. Ethan Hale had learned in his 11 bad years that when a thing could be 3 different things, you went ahead and planned for the worst of the 3. He walked back around the wagon. Mary. Ethan? I'm lifting you now. It's gonna hurt. I'm sorry. Yeah. Just do it. He slid one arm under her knees and one behind her shoulders, and he lifted her against his chest, and she gave a thin, broken sound that wasn't a scream and wasn't a word, and her free hand came up and fisted in the front of his shirt and stayed there. It's all right, he said. It's all right, I got you. Don't drop me. No, ma'am. Don't you dare drop me. No, Mary, I ain't dropping you. He walked her to the horse slow, each step measured, and the whole time her fist was twisting tighter and tighter in the fabric over his heart, like she thought if she let go he'd disappear. He didn't know how to tell her that he was more afraid of that than she was. He'd spent 11 years disappearing. Every town he rode into, every bottle he drank, through every job he took and quit. It was all the same thing. The long, slow vanishing of a man who didn't want to be anywhere. And now, there was a woman with her fist in his shirt, and a child fixing to come into the world against all odds and all weather and all the dust on the horizon. And for the first time since Lexington, Ethan Hale was not trying to disappear. He was trying to stay. He set her up in the saddle sideways, one arm still around her, and he swung up behind her careful as he could. She leaned back against his chest, and her breath was coming fast and shallow. "Ethan." "I'm here." "How far?" 4 miles. "I don't have 4 miles, Ethan." He looked east. He looked west at the dust smudge, which was either bigger now, or his eyes were playing tricks. He clicked his tongue at the horse, and they started to move. "Then we'll make 3 be enough," he said. "You just keep a hold of me, Mary Whitaker. You just keep a hold." Her hand closed on his forearm so tight he felt his own pulse beat back against her grip, and somewhere far behind them, faint as a whisper, a single shod hoof struck stone and went quiet again. Ethan heard it. He didn't turn his head. He just kicked the horse into a faster walk and rode east into what was left of the afternoon with a dying woman in his arms and a baby coming and a man he had never met watching them go from somewhere beyond the sky. The horse moved fast, but not fast enough for Ethan Hale's liking, and he knew better than to push it harder with the weight of 2 grown people and a baby, fixing to make it 3. Mary's head lolled against his shoulder. "Mary." "Don't you sleep on me." "Not sleeping." "Yes, you are. Talk." "About what?" "Anything. Your husband. Where you come from. The price of flour." "I don't care, Mary. Just keep your mouth moving." She drew in a ragged breath. "Thomas was a carpenter." "Yeah. From Ohio. He wanted to build a house. In Oregon." "Oregon's a long ride." He said the land was free there, if you could get to it." "Lot of men have said that." "He believed it." "Did you?" A long pause. "I believed him." Ethan's jaw worked. "That's a different thing." "Yes," she whispered. "It is." The horse stumbled on a rut, and Mary cried out, and Ethan tightened his arm around her middle and said, "Easy, easy," and the horse found its footing and kept on. "How close, Mary?" "What?" "The pains. Count for me." She tried. She made it to 42, and then another one rolled over her, and she stopped counting and made a small tight sound that cut Ethan worse than if she'd screamed. 42, he said. That's all right, we got time." He didn't know if they had time. He'd helped a mare foal twice in his life, and he'd watched his own wife die trying to bring their boy into the world. And the truth of it was, he didn't know the first useful thing about what a woman needed when her body was doing this. He knew what men did in war. He knew how to stop bleeding from a saber cut, and how to set a broken arm, and how to keep a man from choking on his own blood. None of that was going to help Mary Whitaker. "Ethan?" "Yeah." "Are you a God-fearing man?" "No, ma'am. Not anymore." "Oh. Sorry." "Don't be sorry. I was once. It didn't take." "Why?" "Because I asked him for a thing, and he didn't give it to me." "What thing?" Ethan was quiet a long moment. "My wife," he said finally. "And my boy." "Oh, Ethan. Don't. I'm sorry. Don't." She didn't say anything else about it, and he was grateful. And he was also aware that he had just told a stranger a thing he hadn't told a living soul in 11 years, and he didn't have the first idea what to do with that. The horse crested a low rise. Ahead of them, maybe 2 miles, he could make out the dark shape of the line shack he'd passed earlier. Squat and crooked, leaning like a drunk against the prevailing wind. Not much. A roof and 4 walls and a door. It was more than they had now. "I see it, Mary." "See what?" "Shelter." "How far?" 2 miles. 2 miles is a long way. Not the way I'm gonna ride it." He clicked his tongue, and the horse picked up its pace, and behind them, Ethan heard the sound again. A hoof. Not close. Not yet. But closer than it had been. He didn't turn his head. He'd learned in the war that turning your head was the surest way to tell a man who was tracking you that you knew he was there. You kept your face forward, and you kept your seat loose, and you let him think he was still a secret, and you rode to ground. And then, when you got there, you had maybe 10 seconds to be ready before he came over the last rise. Mary. Yes, when we get to the shack, I need you to be still. I need you to not cry out. I know that's a hard thing to ask. Why? Because I think there's a man behind us. Her whole body went rigid against him. Thomas. Not Thomas, Mary. Who? I don't know. Is he going to? He ain't going to do anything because I ain't going to let him. But I need you quiet when I say quiet. All right. You understand me. I understand you. Good girl. The endearment slipped out before he could stop it, a thing his wife used to say to their coonhound, and he felt the ghost of a smile try to come up on his face, and he stamped it flat. There was no room in him for smiling right now. There was only room for the next 2 miles, and the man behind them, and the woman shaking in his arms. Ethan? Yeah. If something happens to me, nothing's happening to you. If something happens to me, you take the baby. Mary, you take the baby, and you ride, and you don't stop, and you find a woman in a town who'll feed it, and you give it a name. Mary, I ain't. Swear it. I ain't doing that because it ain't happening. Swear it, Ethan Hale. He closed his eyes for half a second. I swear it. Thank you. But it ain't happening. All right. Mary, you hear me? I hear you. The shack grew in front of them, closer with every stride, and Ethan counted the distance down in his head the way he used to count yards to a tree line with cannon smoke boiling up in front of it. A mile. 3/4. Half. Another contraction hit Mary, and her fingernails tore through the fabric of his sleeve and into the skin of his forearm, and she bit down on her own lip hard enough to draw blood, and she did not make a sound. Ethan's throat closed up. That's a girl, he whispered. That's a girl, Mary. You're stronger than anything. No. Yes, ma'am. No, just scared. Same thing sometimes. A 1/4 mile. He could see the door of the shack hanging on one hinge. He could see the tin roof warped up at the corner. He could see the empty corral beside it, the rails split, the posts rotted. Nobody had used this place in a year, maybe 2, which meant nobody was inside, which meant he didn't have to clear it before he carried her in. Small mercies. He'd take small mercies. Mary, when I pull up, I'm going to swing you down. I'll go in first with the gun. You stay on the horse till I come back. Don't leave me on the horse. 10 seconds, Mary. Don't leave me. 10 seconds and I'm back, I promise. He pulled up in front of the shack and slid off the back of the horse, and his boots hit the dirt, and he had the revolver in his hand before he'd taken a full breath. He shouldered the crooked door open with his offhand and cleared the single room in 2 steps, and it was empty, and it was filthy, and it was theirs. He was back at the horse in 6 seconds. Come here, Mary. I can't. Come here. Come. He lifted her down, and her legs gave out entirely, and he caught her weight against his chest and carried her in and set her down on the dirt floor against the back wall, because there was no bed, because there was no blanket, because there was nothing but the 4 walls and the roof. He had promised her, and he hated the world right then as much as he had ever hated it. I'm sorry, he said. I'm sorry, Mary. It's all I got. It's enough. It ain't, Ethan. Her hand came up and caught his jaw, weak but certain. It is. He couldn't look at her. He pulled his coat off and bundled it and wedged it behind her head, and then he went back out to the horse and grabbed his bedroll and his canteen and the little bundle of clean cloth he carried in his saddlebags, because a man who rode alone learned to patch his own wounds. He brought it all back inside, and he shut the door as best he could, and he wedged a splintered board against it. Then he knelt down next to her. Mary. Yes. I need to look. I know. I ain't done this before. I won't pretend I have. My mother helped my sister through 2 babies. I watched. Tell me what you watched. She told him in broken pieces between contractions, the pushing and the breathing, and the part where the head came, and the part where the shoulders came, and the part where you tied the cord. Her voice got thinner as she talked. By the time she was done, she was whispering, and her eyes were closed, and her lips had gone the color of old paper. Mary. Mary, open your eyes. She didn't. Mary Whitaker, open your eyes right now. They fluttered. There she is. I'm tired, Ethan. I know you are. I'm so tired. I know, Mary, but you ain't allowed to be tired yet. Says who? Says me. A small broken laugh came out of her. It was the first laugh he'd heard her make, and it did something to his chest he wasn't prepared for. He turned his face away so she wouldn't see it, and he reached for the canteen and uncapped it with his teeth. Drink. I can't. Little sip. She drank. Most of it ran down her chin. Some of it made it in. He capped the canteen and set it down and rolled up his sleeves, and his hands were shaking, and he did not let her see that either. Ethan. Yeah. The man behind us. I'm listening for him. What if he comes? He won't come while we're in here. How do you know? Because I'll hear his horse before he knows we're in here, and then I'll step out that door and I'll have the first shot. You're sure? I'm sure of that, Mary. There's a lot of things in this world I ain't sure of anymore. That ain't one of them. She nodded. Another contraction took her, and her knees came up, and she bit down on the cuff of his coat, and he held her hand through it, and when it passed, she was sweating through the last dry patches of her dress. Ethan? Still here. Tell me about her. Who? Your wife. His hand stopped moving on hers. Mary, that ain't... Please, tell me. I need to hear a voice. I need to hear your voice. He swallowed. Her name was Sarah. Sarah. She had red hair, not orange red, dark red, like a bay horse in sun. That's pretty. She thought it was ugly. She used to pin it up so nobody could see it. Foolish woman. Yeah. His mouth twisted. Foolish woman. Was she kind? She was kind. She was sharp-tongued. She had opinions about everything, and she wasn't afraid to tell you which one was right. I would have liked her. She would have liked you, Mary. Would she? She'd have told me to quit dawdling and get in here quicker. Mary laughed again. It cut off in a contraction, and the contraction was longer than the last one, and her whole body bore down, and Ethan felt something in the air of the shack shift the way air shifts before a real storm, and he knew without knowing how he knew that they were in it now, that the waiting part was over, that whatever was going to happen in the next hour was going to happen whether he was ready or not. Mary? Ethan, it's coming. I know. It's coming now. I'm here. Don't leave me. I ain't going anywhere. She clutched his hand hard enough to grind the bones together, and she breathed through clenched teeth, and her eyes were open now, wide open, and they were fixed on his face, like his face was the only thing holding her to the earth. Ethan. Look at me, Mary. I'm looking. You're doing this. You hear me? You are doing this. I can't. You are. Right now you are. Thomas was supposed to. I know. Thomas was supposed to be here and he's not here and I'm here, Mary. You're not him. No, ma'am, I'm not. I'm sorry. Don't you dare be sorry. I'm sorry you're the one. Mary Whitaker, you listen to me. He took her face in both his hands. There is not a place in this world I would rather be right now than on this dirt floor with you. Do you hear me? Her eyes filled up all the way this time. I hear you. Good. Ethan, push when it comes, Mary. Push hard. I've got you. And then the world narrowed down. It narrowed down to her breathing and to his hands and to the sound of a woman doing the oldest, hardest work there was. And Ethan Hale, who had not prayed in 11 years, who had not asked God for a single thing since a cabin in Kentucky, found himself saying, please, under his breath, over and over, Please, please, please. Not to any god in particular, but to the whole spinning, wretched world. Please let this one live. Please let this one live. Please. She screamed. She screamed long, and she screamed loud, and he didn't tell her to be quiet, because there are things a man doesn't get to ask of a woman, and that was one of them. He let her scream. He let her grip his hand and tear at his shirt, and he held her up off the dirt, and he talked to her the whole time, a steady low murmur. That's it. That's it. Good girl, Mary. That's it. And outside, very far away, but closer than before, a horse blew air through its nose. Ethan heard it. Mary didn't. He didn't tell her. One more, Mary. One more big one. I can't. One more. Ethan. Now, Mary, now. She bore down. And then the world cracked open. There was a long stretched moment where nothing happened, where a man's whole life seemed to pause on a pinpoint. And then there was a small wet bundle in Ethan Hale's 2 hands, and the bundle was not moving. The bundle was not moving. The bundle was not crying. "Oh no," Mary whispered. "Oh no, oh no, oh no. Mary. Is she?" "Hold on. Ethan, is she?" He didn't answer her because he didn't know the answer, because the child in his hands was blue around the mouth and silent and slick. And he fumbled with the clean cloth, and he wiped the small face, and he turned the small body, and he thumped gentle on the small back, the way he had seen a hand thump a foal that didn't want to draw its first breath, and nothing happened. "Ethan? Hold on, Mary. Ethan, please." He thumped again, harder. "Come on," he whispered. "Come on, little one. Come on now. Your mama needs you. Come on. Come on. Come on." The shack was silent. Mary was silent. Ethan's hands were shaking so hard he thought he might drop the child. He bent his head down low, his mouth right over the tiny mouth, and he breathed just a small breath, just a whisper of air, the way a man breathes on a cold coal to find out if it's dead. He breathed again, a third time, and the baby coughed, and the baby cried, and the cry was not a scream. It was a thin, reedy thread of a sound. The smallest sound Ethan Hale had ever heard. The smallest and the loudest. And Mary made a noise behind him that wasn't a word and wasn't a sob. It was something else entirely. Something that came out of the place, in a person where joy and grief share the same room. "She's alive," Ethan said. His voice broke in half. "Mary, she's alive. She's alive. It's a girl, Mary. You've got a girl. Give her to me. Let me. Give her to me, Ethan." He wrapped the baby fast in the cleanest cloth he had, and he laid the child on Mary's chest, and Mary's arms came up around her daughter with the last strength she had in her body, and Mary was crying now, really crying. The dam had finally gone, and she was shaking her head and saying, "Thank you, thank you, thank you." And Ethan didn't know if she was talking to him or to God or to Thomas or to the child herself. He sat back on his heels. His hands were red. He looked down at them, and for a second he couldn't make sense of what he was seeing. And then he looked at Mary, and he saw how much of the red was hers, and he saw that it was still coming. "Mary? She's so small. Mary, listen to me. She's so small. Ethan, look how small she is. Mary." She looked up at him. Something in his face must have told her. Her eyes went wide. "No," she said. "Mary, I need you to stay with me." "No, Ethan. Stay with me, Mary. You look at your girl. You look at her. You name her. Right now. You name her." "Anna," Mary whispered. "Anna. Anna Grace. That's a beautiful name." "Ethan? Stay with me, Mary. I'm so cold." And outside the shack, very close now, a shod hoof struck a stone, and a man's voice, low and calm and polite as a preacher, called out through the thin wood of the door. "Hello, the house," the voice said. Hello inside. Y'all need any help in there? Ethan Hale's hand closed around the grip of his revolver. Ethan's hand on the revolver did not move for a full 3 seconds. He looked down at Mary. Mary looked up at him. "Don't answer," she whispered. "He knows we're in here." "Don't answer him, Ethan." "Mary, the blood. I know about the blood. I got to stop the blood." "Then stop it." "I got to stop it and keep him outside at the same time, and I can only do one with both hands." Her eyes flicked toward the door. "Talk to him," she said. "Keep him talking." The voice outside came again, patient as Sunday. "Hello, the house. I heard a woman inside. Y'all need a hand." Ethan cleared his throat. "We're all right in here, mister." "That don't sound all right." "Wife's having a baby." "Is that a fact?" "It's a fact." A pause. "You need water." "I got water." "I got water." "You need a woman." "There's a woman a half day east of here. Mexican woman. Birthed half the babies in this county. We're past needing a woman, mister. Baby's here. Mother's resting." "Well now, that's fine news." Ethan listened. He listened past the voice to the ground outside the shack, to the way the horse shifted its weight to whether there was a second horse he hadn't caught before. He couldn't tell. The wood was thick enough to muffle the small sounds and thin enough to carry voices, and that was the worst possible combination. "Mr. Ethan said, I'm grateful for you stopping. But my wife needs quiet. I'd ask you to ride on." "I surely will." "Appreciate it. Mind if I water my horse at your creek first?" "Ain't my creek." "Reckon it ain't anybody's." "Reckon not." A longer pause, and then softer, almost friendly. "Mister, what name should I tell the folks in town when they ask if I seen the Whitaker wagon?" The air in the shack stopped moving. Mary's hand closed on Ethan's wrist hard enough to bruise. Ethan did not answer right away. He looked down at the woman bleeding onto his coat, and he thought very fast and very clearly about the number of ways a stranger riding past a broken wagon on an empty stretch of Wyoming could know the name Whitaker. And he came up with exactly one. He'd been told. Ethan kept his voice even. "Who's asking, Mr. Friend of the family?" "Didn't catch the name." "Mercer. Cole Mercer. Don't know you." "No, sir, you wouldn't. But I knew Thomas." Mary made a small sound. Ethan put his free hand over her mouth, not hard, just there, and shook his head once. "Thomas is resting," Ethan said through the door. "Is he now?" "He's resting. Wagon axle give out, did it?" "Something like that." "Mister, I don't know your name." "Didn't give it. That's all right. You don't have to. I'll tell you what, though. I'll tell you the way this is going to go. I'm going to ride around to your creek and water my horse, and I'm going to sit a spell, and when I come back past this shack, I'm going to knock on that door one more time. And you're going to open it, and you're going to show me Thomas Whitaker alive or dead, and then we'll see what comes next. Because Thomas owed a man a sum of money, and that man sent me, and I don't ride 200 miles for nothing." Ethan's jaw locked. "Mr. Mercer." "Yes, sir." "You ride on past this shack, and you keep riding, and you tell the man who sent you that Thomas Whitaker is past paying any debt he ever had in this world." "Is he?" "He is." "Well, that's a sorrowful thing." "It is." "And the woman?" "The woman is my wife, mister, not his." Silence. A long, thoughtful silence. "Now that's interesting," Cole Mercer said. "Because Thomas and his Mary come through Rock Springs 3 weeks ago, and I had a drink with them at the Gold Room Saloon, and I'd recognize her voice if I heard it through a barn wall." The shack went so quiet, Ethan could hear Mary's breath shaking in and out of her chest. He closed his eyes for half a second. "Mary," he murmured, "I need my hand." She let go. "Mr. Mercer," Ethan called. "Yes, sir." "You come back to that door when you've watered your horse. I'll have something for you." "I believe you will. Ride on now." "Yes, sir." The hoofbeats moved off unhurried, almost lazy, and Ethan listened to them go until he couldn't hear them anymore. And then he listened for another 10 seconds to see if a second horse followed, and none did, and he allowed himself exactly one breath before he turned back to Mary. "He's alone," he said. "You don't know that." "I know it." "Ethan." "Mary, you're bleeding out." "I know. I got to pack it." "I know. It's going to hurt." "Most things do." He almost smiled. He tore strips from the cleanest cloth he had left, and he did what he knew how to do, what a field surgeon had shown him once in a tent outside Manassas, when a man was bleeding from a place a man wasn't supposed to bleed from. And Mary bit down on the collar of his coat and did not cry out, and the baby slept on her chest, in the small, exhausted way newborns sleep. And when he was done, the cloth was red through, but the red was not spreading anymore, or not as fast. "There," he said. "There. Ethan." "Yeah." "How long do I have?" "Don't talk like that." "Ethan." "How long?" "I don't know." "Guess." "I won't marry." "Then tell me something else." "What?" "Tell me you won't run." "Mary." "When he comes back, tell me you won't run." "Look at me, Mary Whitaker." She looked. "I ain't run from one fight my whole life," Ethan said. "I've run from a lot of things. I ain't run from that." "Promise." "I promise." She closed her eyes. "Anna Grace," she whispered. "What about her?" "If I go, you ain't going." "If I go, Ethan." "Mary." "If I go, you tell her I tried." He couldn't answer. He put his forehead down against her forehead for just a second, because there was nothing he could say that was equal to it, and her skin was cold, and his wasn't, and he felt that difference in his whole body. "I'll tell her," he said. "Thank you. Now you listen to me." "I'm listening." "That man is coming back. He's coming back with whatever he thinks is going to get him in this door, and I am going to handle that. And you are going to stay right here, and you are going to keep that baby breathing, and you are going to keep yourself breathing, and when it's done, I'm coming back in this room. You understand me?" "Yes." "You don't close your eyes." "No." "Swear it." "I swear it, Ethan." He stood up. He checked the cylinder of the revolver with hands that were still faintly red and faintly shaking. 6 rounds. He had another 12 on his belt. He'd fired a gun at a man 3 times in 11 years, and every one of those times had been in a saloon where somebody had reached for a knife first. This was not a saloon. This was worse. "Ethan?" "Yeah." "How many men has he got?" "1, I think. The boot tracks back at the wagon, only 1 man walked up to it. The hoof prints I heard on the ride, only 1 horse." But Thomas owed somebody money, and a man collecting a debt usually doesn't come alone." "Ethan?" "Yeah." "If there's more than 1. I know Mary." "Ethan?" "I know." He moved to the door. He did not open it. He put his eye to the crack between the wood and the frame, and he looked out slow, and he saw nothing. Which meant Cole Mercer was good at what he did. Which meant this was not going to be a fair fight, because a fair fight was a thing a man like Cole Mercer had probably never been in. From behind him, Mary's voice came small and steady. "Ethan?" "Yeah." "He knew my name." "I heard him." "He knew Thomas." "I heard that too, Mary." "Thomas didn't owe money." Ethan turned his head. "What did you say?" "Thomas didn't owe money. Thomas never owed $1 to any man in his life. He was a careful man. He counted every coin. It drove me half wild." "Mary?" "He didn't owe money, Ethan." "Then what did Mercer want from him?" She was quiet a long moment. "There was a bag," she whispered. "A bag. Under the wagon seat. Thomas wouldn't tell me what was in it. He said the less I knew, the safer I was." "A bag of what, Mary?" "I don't know." "Mary." "I opened it once. He was watering the mule. I opened it, and I looked in." "What was in it?" "Papers." "Papers. Not money. Papers. A stack of papers tied with string. Letters, I think. Some of them had seals on them. Red seals. Ethan stared at her. Where's the bag now? Under the wagon seat. Under the... Still. You didn't bring it. I forgot it, Ethan. I was there. With so much blood and the mule wouldn't get up and Thomas wouldn't wake up. I forgot it. Easy. Easy, Mary. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Don't be sorry for one thing, Mary Whitaker. But he was thinking fast now. Papers with red seals. A man riding 200 miles to find them. A wagon 4 miles west with a dead man under the wheel, and a bag still tucked under the seat where nobody had thought to look because nobody had thought there was anything to look for. Cole Mercer hadn't come for a debt. Cole Mercer had come for what was in that bag, which meant, and this was the thing that made Ethan's blood run cold, in a way it hadn't in 11 years, that Cole Mercer did not actually need to kill them. He needed to go back to the wagon. And when he rode off just now saying he was going to water his horse, he had not been going to water his horse at all. He had been going back to the wagon. Mary. Yes. How long has he been gone? I don't know. A few minutes. How fast would a man ride 4 miles? Ethan. If he knew where he was going and he didn't stop. 15 minutes, maybe 10. And back. The same. So we have a half hour. Ethan, what are you saying? I'm saying he's going to come back with whatever's in that bag, and then he's going to come back here, and then he's going to want to know what you know and whether you've told me. I don't know anything. He don't care what you know, Mary. He cares what he can't be sure you don't know. She understood. He watched her understand. Oh, she said quietly. Yeah. He's going to kill us. He's going to try. Ethan. He's going to try, Mary, and he ain't going to do it. You can't. I can. Against a man like that? Mary. You don't know what kind of man he is. I know exactly what kind of man he is. How? Because I was one. The silence that followed was a different kind of silence than the ones before. Mary looked up at him. Her face didn't change. She was too tired for her face to change, but something in her eyes shifted, and it was not fear, and it was not judgment, and Ethan didn't know what it was, but it went through him like a hot wire. Ethan Hale, she said. Yes, ma'am. What did you do in the war? Things, Mary. What things? Things I ain't going to say to a dying woman holding a baby. I ain't dying. No, ma'am. So say them. Mary, Ethan, I want to know who's standing between me and that door. He looked at her a long second. Then he said very quiet. I rode with a man named Quantrill for about 9 months. I rode out when I figured out what kind of man he was. And I was a sharpshooter for the regular army for 3 years after that. And I killed men from 600 yards who never knew I was on the hill. And I killed men from 3 feet who looked me in the face while I did it. And when the war ended, I put the rifle down, and I swore I was done. And now I ain't. Because of me. Because of her. He nodded toward the small bundle on her chest. Mary looked down at her daughter. Anna Grace, she whispered. You hear that? There's a man standing over us, and he ain't going to let anything bad happen. You hear that, baby girl? The baby made a small sound. It was not a cry. It was something smaller, an acknowledgement. Ethan felt something in his chest crack again, the same crack as before, a little wider this time. He turned back to the door. Mary. Yes. I'm going out. What? I'm going out to meet him. No. Mary, if I wait for him to come back to the door, he's going to find a way in I don't expect. He's going to fire through the wood. He's going to burn it. He's going to do something I can't plan for because I'm stuck inside. If I go out and I pick my ground, I get the first look, and I get the first shot. Ethan, you can't leave us. I ain't leaving you. You are leaving us. Mary, you walk out that door, you are leaving us. I am going to be 60 feet from that door behind the rocks north of here. I am going to wait for him. I am going to end it before he gets close enough to hear a baby cry through wood. That is what I am going to do. And if he kills you—" Ethan was quiet. "Ethan," Mary said, "and if he kills you, then you take the derringer out of your dress pocket and you put it under the coat, and when he opens that door, you shoot him in the stomach. You don't aim for the head, you don't aim for the chest, the stomach. He'll bleed slow and he'll die certain." Her face went white. "I can't." "You will, Mary. For Anna." "Ethan, say it." "Ethan, please." "Say it, Mary." "For Anna." Her voice broke. "For Anna." "Good girl." He crossed to her in 2 strides, and he bent down and he pressed his lips to her forehead quick and fierce, the way a brother kisses a sister going into surgery, the way a man kisses a thing he is afraid he will not see again. Her hand came up and caught the back of his neck and held him there for 1 second longer than he meant to stay. "Come back," she whispered. "I will." "Promise me." "I don't make that promise, Mary. I've heard men make it. It ain't theirs to make." "Then say you'll try." "I'll try. I'll try harder than I've tried at anything in 11 years. "All right. All right." He straightened up. He checked the revolver 1 more time. He pulled the second pistol from his saddlebag, the old Colt he'd carried through the war, the one he hadn't fired in 6 years, and he checked that one too. He put the spare in his belt at the small of his back. At the door he paused. "Mary." "Yes, if it goes bad. If you hear shots and you don't hear my voice after, you stay in this shack until morning. You don't come out for any man, not one. If a preacher comes to the door, you don't open it. If a child comes to the door, you don't open it. You understand me?" "Yes." "You stay until morning and you stay quiet, and at first light you take Anna and you walk east, just east. You'll hit a road in about 6 hours. A wagon will come down that road before noon. You flag it. You ask for a woman, not a man, a woman. A woman. A woman, Mary." "I understand." He nodded. His hand was on the board he'd wedged against the door, and he was about to lift it when Mary said his name again, 1 last time, soft as a held breath. "Ethan." "Yeah." "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet, Mary." "I'm not thanking you for later." "What then?" "I'm thanking you for turning your horse around." He didn't answer. He couldn't. He lifted the board, and he opened the door just enough to slip his body through, and he shut it behind him, and he heard Mary slide the board back into place from the inside, and he was alone in what was left of the afternoon with a revolver in his hand and a baby girl he had helped pull into the world at his back. He moved low and fast toward the rocks north of the shack. He found his ground. He went still, and in the long quiet that followed, with his cheek against cold stone and the sun hanging low and his pulse steady, for the first time since he had heard her scream on the plains, Ethan Hale thought about how strange it was that a man could go 11 years being dead inside his own skin, and then in the span of a single afternoon come back to life just in time to lay it down again. He did not regret it. He waited. A half-mile off, a horse crested a low rise. It came down the far side, and it came on at a steady working trot, and on its back was a man in a gray hat with something leather slung across the saddle horn that had not been there before. A bag. Cole Mercer had the bag, and he was coming back. Ethan Hale settled his cheek against cold stone and waited for Cole Mercer to make the last mistake of his life. The gray hat came on at that easy working trot, the leather bag bouncing against the saddle horn, and Mercer was whistling. Actually whistling a tune Ethan half recognized from a tent revival a lifetime ago. A man who whistled on his way to murder was a man who had done it plenty. Ethan did not whistle. Ethan breathed. 400 yards. 300. He thumbed the hammer back on the Colt, and the click was a small sound in a big quiet, and somewhere behind him in the shack, a baby made a thin new cry, and Ethan heard it, and his finger did not shake. 200 yards. Mercer reined up. Just stopped. Right in the middle of the open ground, 180 yards from the shack, 100 yards from the rocks, and he sat his horse, and he looked around like a man who had heard something he hadn't expected to hear. "Now, friend," Mercer called out, pleasant as a storekeeper. "Now I ain't even to the door yet. What kind of welcome is that?" Ethan went still. "I can see the sun off your gun barrel, mister. From here. It's a pretty bright day." Ethan's jaw locked. Amateur mistake. He'd been laid up behind rocks in the sun for 6 minutes, and he'd forgotten that a polished Colt threw light like a mirror. He did not move. "I'm going to do you a kindness," Mercer said. "I'm going to tell you a thing you don't know. You with me?" Ethan said nothing. "There's a boy on a ridge half a mile behind you," Mercer called. "His name is Billy. Billy is 16 years old and he has killed 4 men, and he is a worse shot than me. But he is not a bad shot. Billy has been watching your back for about 10 minutes now. If I fall off this horse, Billy will put a round through the back of your head before you hit the ground. If you put a round through the back of my head, Billy will ride down to that shack and do a thing to your woman that I would not do because I am not that kind of man. But Billy is." Ethan's blood went cold. "I don't believe you, Mercer." "Suit yourself. Stand up and look." "I ain't standing up." "Then crawl to the north edge of them rocks and look." Ethan didn't move. But he let his eyes drift north without turning his head, and what he saw made his stomach drop. There was a boy. On a ridge. A skinny silhouette against the sky, a rifle laid across his lap, patient as a hawk. Ethan had ridden past that ridge an hour ago and seen nothing, because there had been nothing to see. The boy had come after. The boy had been tracking from behind all along. "You see him?" Mercer called. "I see him." "Well, there?" "There what?" "There we are, friend. There we are at the part of the day where we stop pretending." Mercer swung down off his horse, slow, both hands visible. He looped the reins around his own wrist, and he stood there in the open ground, and he held up the leather bag like a man offering a gift. "I don't want the woman," he said. "I don't want the baby. I don't even want you particularly. I want what's in this bag to go where it's supposed to go. And I want whoever else has seen what's in this bag to be not alive to tell about it. Now." That last part don't have to include the woman. No, it don't, friend. I'm telling you. Thomas Whitaker wasn't who she thought he was. He was carrying papers that belonged to a man in Cheyenne who don't like losing things. If your woman don't know what was in that bag, then she don't know, and I got no quarrel with her. I'll ride away, and Billy will ride away, and you can take your woman and her baby and ride east and never hear the name Cole Mercer again. She don't know. I reckon she didn't. So ride away. I need to hear her say it. No. Mister? I said no. Mister, I am being reasonable. You are being patient because you want in that shack, and I am not letting you in that shack, and there is no third door on this house. Mercer smiled. Ethan could see the smile from 180 yards, and it was a quiet, friendly smile, and it was the worst thing Ethan had seen all day. "All right, friend," Mercer said. "All right." He let go of the horse's reins. He started walking toward the shack. Just walking, hands loose at his sides, the bag hanging from his left fist. His right hand brushed the butt of his revolver and kept moving. Ethan's mind raced. If he shot Mercer, the boy on the ridge shot him. If he did nothing. Mercer walked to the door of the shack, and Mary opened it because she thought it was him, or because Mercer talked through the wood until she did. If he showed himself and ran for the shack, he had maybe 60 feet of open ground, and he was an easy shot from behind for a boy with a rifle. There was no move. There was no move on the board. And then Mary's voice came through the wall of the shack, thin and weak and perfectly clear in the still air. "Ethan Hale," she called. "Ethan Hale, you listen to me." Ethan's heart stopped. "Mary, stay inside." "Ethan, I'm opening this door." "Mary, no." "Mr. Mercer." Mercer paused. "Yes, ma'am." "Mr. Mercer, I am opening this door and I am coming out. And if you take one more step toward this shack, my husband will put a bullet through your throat, and I do not care what the boy on the ridge does after." Silence. "Your husband, ma'am." "Ethan Hale. Is that right?" "That is right." Mercer laughed. It was a small, surprised laugh, almost delighted. "Ma'am, he said. "I had a drink with Thomas Whitaker 3 weeks ago." "Thomas is dead, Mr. Mercer. The wagon axle broke and crushed him 2 days ago, and I have buried him in my heart, and I have taken a new man, and I have borne a child, and I am telling you right now that if you take one more step, I will have done all of that just to watch you die at my door. Do you understand me?" Mercer stood very still. "Ma'am, do you understand me?" "I believe I do." "Then you listen to what I'm about to say. The papers you want are in that bag in your hand. I know they are because I looked in it. I looked in it 2 weeks ago, and I saw letters with red seals, and I closed it up, and I never told a living soul, not Thomas, and not the preacher in Rock Springs, and not God himself. I do not know what they say. I do not read well enough to know what they say. I could not tell a man in Cheyenne a single useful thing about what is in that bag, even if you put a gun to my baby's head." Ethan closed his eyes. She was buying him time. She was buying him time with the only currency she had left, which was her own life, and she was doing it while bleeding through a coat on a dirt floor holding a newborn. "Ma'am, that's a fine speech." "Mr. Mercer?" "Yes, ma'am. I am going to open this door now. I am going to stand in the doorway. You are going to see that I am holding a baby and nothing else. You are going to take that bag, and you are going to turn around, and you are going to leave, and you are going to tell your boy on the ridge to leave, and you are going to tell the man in Cheyenne that Thomas Whitaker's woman is no threat to any living man, because Thomas Whitaker's woman is going to be dead by morning." Ethan's head whipped around. "Mary!" "I am bleeding to death, Mr. Mercer. You can see it on the coat I'm sitting on. You can smell it through the door if you have the nose for it. I have maybe 6 hours. Maybe less. And I am telling you plain, if you leave my new husband and my baby alone, I will spend those 6 hours grateful. And if you don't, I will spend my last breath making sure my husband takes you with me." Mercer was quiet a long time. Ethan did not dare move. "Ma'am," Mercer said, "open the door. Slow. All right. Hands where I can see them. Baby where I can see it. No sudden anything. All right." The board slid back from inside. The door swung open, creaking on its one hinge, and Mary Whitaker stood in the doorway. She stood. God help him. Ethan didn't know how he had left her bleeding on a dirt floor 15 minutes ago, and her knees had given out carrying her in, but she stood. Her left arm cradled Anna Grace against her chest. Her right hand hung empty at her side. Her dress was dark all the way to her knees. Her face was the color of old snow. But she stood. Mercer looked at her. He looked at her a long moment. Something in his face changed. Ethan saw it from 180 yards, and he couldn't name it, but he knew the shape of it, the look of a hard man recognizing a thing harder than himself. "Ma'am," Mercer said. "Mr. Mercer. You Thomas's widow, sure enough." "I was." "He talked about you." "Did he?" "Said his Mary could stare down the devil himself." A small, broken laugh came out of her. "Thomas was a dreamer, Mr. Mercer." "He was at that, ma'am." Mercer lowered the bag. He did not put it down. But he lowered it, and he took one long step backward, and he tipped his hat, and Ethan felt the whole world crack open with the terrible, fragile hope of what was about to happen. "Ma'am," Mercer said, "I am going to take your advice." "Thank you. But I got one question first." "Ask it." "The papers. You said you looked. You said you can't read good enough to make sense of them. Is that the God's honest truth?" Mary's chin came up. "Mr. Mercer, I was the daughter of a preacher, and I have read my Bible cover to cover, and I can read any English word any man ever wrote. I know exactly what those papers are. I know the names on them, and I know the amounts, and I know which senator is going to hang when they are read in a court of law. I lied to you just now. Do you understand me?" Ethan's breath stopped in his chest. Mercer's hand moved. It moved toward the revolver at his hip, and it was faster than it should have been, faster than Ethan had planned for, but Ethan had been waiting on that hand for 10 minutes, and his own hand was faster by the breadth of one heartbeat. The Colt bucked. Cole Mercer's right arm came apart at the elbow, in a way an elbow is not supposed to come apart, and the bag dropped, and the revolver he had been reaching for fell in the dust, and Mercer staggered sideways and went to one knee and let out a long, surprised curse. Ethan was already rolling. He rolled left behind the biggest rock, and a rifle shot from the ridge cracked stone where his head had been, and he came up running low, using the rocks, and a second rifle shot whined past his hat, and a third spanged off stone. And then he was in the dead ground on the north side of the outcrop, where the boy on the ridge could not see him anymore. He came up with the Colt in his right hand and the old war pistol in his left. He ran, not toward the shack, toward the ridge, because the boy on the ridge was 16 years old and had killed 4 men and was shooting at a moving target from 500 yards and was going to hit something eventually, and the only way out of that was to get to the boy before the boy got lucky. Ethan had not run like this in 11 years. His legs remembered. They remembered the ditches outside Sharpsburg and the long run across the cornfield, and the way a man's lungs burned when he was moving under fire and could not slow down because slowing down was how you died. His legs remembered all of it, and they carried him up the slope of the ridge at an angle the boy could not have expected, because the boy had been waiting for him to run toward the shack, because the boy had been told to protect Mercer's flank, not to defend his own. Ethan came up the ridge from the east side. He came up quiet. At the top he went to his belly, and he crawled the last 20 feet, and he found the boy on his stomach with a rifle to his shoulder, aiming down toward the shack, aiming at the open doorway where Mary Whitaker was still standing with a baby in her arms. Ethan did not speak. He did not tell the boy to drop the rifle. He did not warn him. He had made that mistake once in Missouri, and a man had gotten a shot off, and a friend of his had died of it, and Ethan had promised himself on a creek bank, washing the friend's blood off his hands, that he would never again open his mouth when his gun should have done the talking. He shot the boy through the back of the head. Billy, whoever Billy was, whoever Billy had been, died without knowing he had lost, and Ethan Hale lay flat on the ridge for 3 slow breaths after, and then he got up and he ran back down the slope. Mercer was still alive. Mercer was on his knees in the dust, holding the stump of his arm against his belly, and when he saw Ethan come around the rocks, he smiled through the blood on his teeth. "Friend," he said, "don't call me that. That was a hell of a shot." "Shut up. Your boy on the ridge." "He was not my boy." "I take it back then." Ethan stopped 4 feet from him. He had the Colt in his right hand. He did not raise it. "Mercer." "Yes, friend." "Who sent you?" "I told you. Man in Cheyenne." "Name." "You don't want the name." "Name Mercer. Senator Aldrich, friend. Senator Henry Aldrich of the great state of Wyoming, soon to be a state, but not today. And if you take those papers and you ride toward any courthouse between here and the Missouri line, Senator Henry Aldrich will have 10 more men on you before the week is out, and some of them will be better at their job than I was." Ethan was quiet. "So you may as well shoot me, friend," Mercer said, "because I'm telling you this for free. You have kicked a hornet's nest. You have kicked it wide open. And that woman in the doorway ain't going to see her daughter grow up, and neither are you." "She knows the names." "She says she does." "Does she?" Mercer coughed. "I reckon we'll both find out." Ethan looked at him for a long moment, then he holstered the Colt. He walked past Mercer toward the shack, and Mercer called after him, thin and fading. "Friend, you gonna leave me here?" "I am. I'm gonna bleed out." "I know. That ain't Christian." "I told you, I ain't Christian. Not anymore." He did not look back. Mary was still in the doorway. She was still standing. He came up the last 10 feet at a walk, because running at her now, bloody as he was, would have frightened her worse than she was already frightened. And when he got to the door, he stopped just short of it, and he said her name very quiet. "Mary." "Ethan." "It's done." "The boy." "Done." "Mercer." "He'll be done in a minute." She nodded. Her eyes were glassy. Her mouth worked around something she could not quite say. Anna Grace made a small mewling sound against her chest, and Mary looked down at her daughter, and then she looked back up at Ethan, and she smiled. "Ethan Hale." "Yes, ma'am." "I want to tell you something." "Tell me." I cannot read." He stared at her. "I never could. My father was a preacher, but my mother died before she could teach me, and my father never thought to. I know my letters and I know a few words. I have never in my life read a paper with a red seal." "Mary." I guessed Ethan. I looked at that bag and I guessed. I saw the seals, and I thought a man does not hide a thing like that, unless the thing can hurt a big man. And when Mr. Mercer came to the door, I thought if he thinks I know, he won't right away. If he thinks I know, he'll have to kill me, and while he's trying, you'll get your shot. Ethan's legs almost buckled. "Mary Whitaker, I thought I was going to die anyway, Ethan. I thought I might as well give you the shot. You, come inside." "Mary." "Come inside, Ethan, please. I can't stand up anymore." He caught her as she fell. He caught her, and he caught Anna Grace against his own chest with his free arm, and he carried them both back into the shack, and he laid Mary down, and he knelt over her, and her face was fading in front of him, going a bad gray color he had seen before on other faces. "Mary." "Mary, stay with me." "I'm here." "Stay with me, Mary. It's done. It's over. I got you." "Ethan." "Yeah. Did I do right?" "You did right." "Did I?" "Mary, you did so right. You did so right. Thank you." "Don't thank me." "I'm not." "Who then?" "Thomas." Ethan closed his eyes. "Yes, ma'am. Yes. You tell Thomas." "I will." "Not yet, though." "Not yet." "Not today, Mary. Today you stay with me and Anna. You hear me? Today you stay." She nodded weakly, but she nodded, and then her eyes rolled back in her head, and she went limp against his arm. And for 1 second Ethan Hale thought he had lost her, and he felt the crack in his chest go all the way through him, and he was about to put his ear to her mouth to listen for breath when a voice came from outside the shack. A new voice. Not Mercer's. Not the boys'. A voice Ethan had not heard all day. "Hello, the house," the voice called. "This is Sheriff Daniel Reeves out of Rock Springs. I heard gunfire from the South Road, and I've come to investigate. I am alone, and I am not armed in my hands. I am going to wait at 40 paces for a man to come out and talk to me." Ethan stared at the door. Mary was unconscious in his lap. Anna Grace was asleep against his coat. There was a dead boy on a ridge and a dying man in the dust, and a bag of papers on the ground between the shack and a stranger who called himself the Law, and Ethan Hale did not know. God help him. He did not know whether Sheriff Daniel Reeves had come from Rock Springs or from Cheyenne, and whether the star on his chest was a star or a lie, and whether opening this door was going to save the woman in his arms or kill her. He looked down at Mary's gray face. He looked at Anna Grace. He looked at the door. And he reached for the Colt. Ethan Hale's hand closed around the grip of the Colt, and his thumb found the hammer, and he did not cock it yet, because a cocked gun made a sound a man outside a door could hear, and he did not want to tell Sheriff Daniel Reeves, or whoever was calling himself Sheriff Daniel Reeves, one useful thing more than he had to. He looked down at Mary. Her chest rose. It rose shallow and it rose slow, but it rose, and Ethan's own chest let out a breath he hadn't known he was holding. "Mary!" No answer. "Mary Whitaker, you listen to me even if you can't talk." Her eyelids fluttered. "There's a man at the door says he's a sheriff. I'm going to find out if that's true. If it's true, you're going to live. If it ain't true, I'm going to kill him, and then we'll see what comes. Either way, you stay breathing. You understand me?" A tiny nod. Barely. "Good girl." He laid her down gentle, and he slid Anna Grace out of the crook of his arm and tucked her into the bend of Mary's elbow, and the baby made a small sleepy sound and did not wake. He stood up. He crossed to the door with the Colt in his right hand and the war pistol tucked in the small of his back, and he did not open the door. He put his mouth close to the wood. "Sheriff." "Yes, sir." "How did you know to come here?" "Gunfire, sir. 3 rifle rounds and a pistol. I was 4 miles east on the road." "That don't answer my question. Why were you 4 miles east on the road?" A pause. "Mister," Reeves called, "I'd rather not shout my business across a door if it's all the same to you. But I will. I was looking for a man named Cole Mercer. I have been looking for him for 11 months. He robbed a stagecoach near Bitter Creek in November, and he killed the driver and a woman passenger, and he has been riding across this territory doing worse ever since. I got word from a deputy in Rawlins that he was headed west toward the Whitaker wagon. I rode hard, and I did not ride hard enough. Ethan's jaw worked. Mercer's dead. Is he? Out in front of the shack, about 40 feet. And the boy? On the ridge, north, one round back of the head. You killed them. I did. A long breath on the other side of the door. Mister, what's your name? Hale. Ethan Hale. Ethan Hale. The name was repeated slow, like a man turning a thing over in his hand. Are you the Ethan Hale that rode for Colonel Baker's sharpshooters in '63? Ethan went still. I was. Well now. You know the name. My brother fought beside you at the Wilderness. Captain Thomas Reeves died there. I remember him. He talked about you. I'm sorry for your loss, Sheriff. That was a long time ago. 19 years. Feels longer. It always does. Ethan closed his eyes for 1 second. A man does not fake that kind of detail standing on the wrong side of a door. A man sent by Senator Aldrich would not know the name of Colonel Baker's company. A man sent by Senator Aldrich would be coming in with a gun. Sheriff? Yes, sir. There's a woman in here dying. She was the wife of a man named Thomas Whitaker. Thomas is dead 2 days and buried in spirit, not in ground yet. She bled hard bringing the baby. She needs a doctor, and I can't take her to one in my saddle. There's a doctor in Rock Springs, 40 miles. She don't have 40 miles in her. There's a woman 30 miles south, a midwife, Mexican woman. She's closer than the doctor, and she's better than him for what your woman needs. That's what Mercer said. Mercer was not wrong about everything. No, I've got a fresh horse and a wagon 2 miles east on the road. I rode ahead when I heard the shooting. If you trust me to stand outside this door, you can open it and we can load her up, and I will have her at that woman's kitchen by sunrise. Ethan looked back at Mary. Her lips had gone a color he did not want to look at twice. Sheriff, he said, I am going to open this door. I am going to have a gun in my hand. If your hand is near your gun, when I open it, I will shoot you before you have made up your mind what you are doing. I hope you will understand. I understand, Mr. Hale. Both hands out to your sides. They're out. Step back to 50 paces. I'm stepping. Ethan counted to 10. He lifted the board. He opened the door with his left hand, and the Colt came up in his right, and his eyes swept the open ground in one long pass, the dead horse of Mercer's, the bag in the dust, the body of Mercer, face down with his arms stretched out, and past all of it, a tall, gray-bearded man standing with his hands out and a tin star on his vest, and no hand anywhere near the pistol at his hip. Reeves did not move. Ethan did not move. For 5 long seconds, it was just 2 men looking at each other across 50 feet of dirt, and then Reeves said very quiet, Mr. Hale, my brother said you were the best man in that company, and the saddest. He said you would not take a drink with the other boys because you did not want to forget what you had come from. He said your wife's name was Sarah. Ethan lowered the Colt. Come ahead, Sheriff. Yes, sir. Reeves came forward, slow hands still out, and he did not put his hands down until he was 10 feet from Ethan, and even then he moved them careful, and his eyes went past Ethan into the shack, and his mouth tightened at what he saw. Lord have mercy. She's alive. For how long? I don't know. Then we move now. Reeves did not ask permission. He went past Ethan into the shack, and he knelt next to Mary, and he put 2 fingers to the side of her throat, and his face did not change, but something in his shoulders loosened, and he nodded once. She's got a pulse. It's thin, but it's there. Can you ride her? I can ride her. You ride behind us on your horse. You watch the road. You shoot the first thing that ain't me or a jackrabbit. Sheriff? Yes. The bag. Reeves looked up. The bag. Mercer died for it. There's papers in it. Mercer said a senator named Aldrich sent him. Reeves went very still. Aldrich. Senator Henry Aldrich. That's what Mercer said. Mr. Hale. Yes, you burn that bag. You burn it in this shack before we ride. You burn it, and you forget the name you just told me. And you tell your woman when she wakes up, and she is going to wake up. I am telling you she is. You tell her that bag was never anything but paper, and paper burns, and that is the end of it. You know Aldrich. I know him enough to know that a woman with a newborn baby and a bag of his letters is not a woman who lives to see a courthouse. And a sheriff who carries that bag into Rock Springs is a sheriff who does not wear the star past Christmas. So we burn it, Mr. Hale. We burn it, and the world will be a better place for the fire. Ethan looked at him a long moment. Then he turned and walked out to where the bag lay in the dust, and he picked it up, and he carried it back inside the shack, and without opening it, he put it in the old rusted stove in the corner, and he struck a match from his pocket, and he let it catch. The leather curled. The papers inside went up bright and fast. He watched them burn, and somewhere in the bones of him, a weight he had not known he was carrying lifted and went up the little crooked stovepipe with the smoke of a senator's secrets, and Ethan Hale was free of something he had only held for an hour, and that was a small thing, but it felt like more. Mr. Hale? Yes. Now we move. They moved. Reeves scooped Mary up against his chest, and Ethan took Anna Grace in the crook of his arm, and they went out into the light, and Ethan did not look at Mercer as he passed the body, and he did not look back at the shack, and his horse came when he whistled, and he swung up one-handed with the baby pressed to his shoulder. Reeves's wagon was where he had said 2 miles east, a plain buckboard with a canvas over it, and a bed of fresh straw, and Reeves laid Mary in the straw, and Ethan handed down the baby, and then swung out of the saddle and tied his horse to the tail of the wagon, and he climbed up beside Mary and took her hand. Reeves clicked to the team. They rolled 30 miles. 30 miles across country that might have taken a man's whole night to cross on a tired horse, and Reeves drove those mules like he had a grudge against the hour, and Ethan sat in the straw with Mary's head in his lap, and Anna Grace tucked against his chest, and he did the only thing he knew to do. He talked. Mary. Nothing. Mary Whitaker, you listen to my voice. You stay in the world with my voice. You understand me. Her eyelashes moved. Not her eyes, just the lashes. I'm going to tell you about the house I'm going to build. Are you listening? He was not going to build a house. He had not thought about building a house in 11 years. He had not thought about building anything. He had thought about riding and drinking and not drinking, and about keeping his back to the wall in a saloon, and about sleeping under his saddle with a gun at his hand, and the closest he had come to building a thing was nailing a shoe back on his horse. But he talked about a house. It's going to have 2 rooms, Mary. 3 if I get ambitious. There's going to be a porch on the east side, so you can sit out in the morning and watch the sun come up. Because Anna is going to wake with the sun, all babies do, and you are going to be the one she wakes first, and you are going to sit on that porch with her, and you are going to tell her the names of the birds. Mary's lips moved. He bent close. Say it again, Mary. Don't know the birds? It was the thinnest sound he had ever heard her make. You'll learn them. Ethan. Yeah, I'm here. You're lying. About what? The house. Mary. You ain't a house-building man. I wasn't. You lying to keep me awake. I am. Then keep lying. He almost laughed. He almost broke clean in half on the floor of that wagon with a dying woman's head in his lap and her daughter asleep on his chest, and he almost laughed. All right, Mary, I'll keep lying. The porch is going to be wide enough for a rocking chair. I'm going to build the chair myself. It will be a terrible chair. You will sit in it anyway. Paint it. What? Paint the chair. Blue. Blue. My mother had a blue chair. All right, Mary, a blue chair. And a dog. A dog. A brown dog. Not a big one. Not a little one. Medium. A medium brown dog. All right. For Anna. Yes. Every girl needs a dog. I know it. Her hand closed weak on his. Ethan. Yeah. If I don't. Mary. If I don't, Ethan. Yeah. You still build the house. Mary. You still build it, Ethan Hale. You build it for her. You find a woman in the town to nurse her. You pay what it costs. You stay until she is big enough to sit on that porch. You do that for me. Mary, you are going to sit on that porch. Promise me anyway. He could not speak for a moment. I promise. Say it all. I will build the house. I will find a woman to nurse her. I will stay until she is big enough for the porch. I will paint the chair blue. I will get a medium brown dog. I will raise your daughter, Mary Whitaker. I will raise her if it takes me the rest of my life. Her hand squeezed his. Good. Now you sleep a little, Mary. I don't want to sleep. Just a little. I'm scared to sleep. I know. But I am right here. I am not moving. If you sleep, I am still here when you wake. I swear it on every bad thing I ever did. All right. All right. She slept, or something like it. The mules rolled on, and the sun went, and the sun came back, and somewhere in the blue hour before dawn, the wagon slowed, and Reeves called out to a dark shape of a cabin, and a woman's voice answered sharp and awake and unsurprised. A midwife's voice, a voice used to the door being knocked on at any hour, and there were fast, quiet Spanish words, and faster English ones, and then hands were lifting Mary out of his lap. He let them. He did not want to let them, but he let them. The woman was named Esperanza, and she was short, and she was old, and she had a face like a dried apple, and hands like a young woman's, quick and certain, and she looked at Mary for 4 seconds, and she said something sharp to Reeves in Spanish, and Reeves translated without being asked. She says your woman is not dying today. Ethan's legs went out from under him. He sat down on the dirt outside the cabin door, and he put his face in his hands, and Anna Grace woke against his chest and started to cry, and he lifted the baby up, and he looked at her for the first time, really looked in the gray light before morning, and she had her mother's nose and her mother's stubborn mouth, and she was furious at being alive. And Ethan Hale held his daughter for the first time, and he said her name out loud. Anna Grace. She cried harder. Yeah, he said. Yeah, I'd cry too. From inside the cabin, Esperanza called something, and Reeves came to the door, and Reeves looked down at Ethan with something close to kindness on his face. She wants the baby. To nurse. There's a woman inside whose baby went a month ago. She has milk to spare. The midwife will see to it. Ethan handed Anna up, and the door closed, and he sat on the dirt, and he watched the gray sky turn pink, and Reeves sat down next to him and said nothing for a long time. Sheriff? Yes. I owe you a debt I can't pay. No, sir, you don't. I do. Mr. Hale, my brother wrote me a letter from the wilderness 3 weeks before he died. In that letter, he told me about a man in his company who had lost a wife and a child, and who had not spoken of it to one soul, but who had carried another man out of a creek under fire when that other man was shot through the leg, and that other man was my brother. I have owed you a debt for 19 years. Today I paid a piece of it. Do not tell me what I am owed, sir. Ethan looked at him. I didn't remember that. A man who does a thing like that does not always remember. I don't know what to say. Then don't say. They did not speak again until the sun was full up. Mary woke on the 3rd day. She woke thin and pale and alive, and when she opened her eyes, Ethan was in a chair beside her bed, and Anna Grace was asleep on his chest, and the first thing Mary did was laugh weak and wondering because Ethan Hale was snoring. Ethan Hale. He came awake in one motion. Mary. You snore. I do not. You do, Ethan. You snore like a bull with a head cold. He could not speak. He leaned forward, and he put his forehead down against her hand on the quilt, and he stayed there a long moment, and when he lifted his head, his eyes were wet, and he did not try to hide it. Mary Whitaker. Ethan. Don't you ever do that to me again. Do what? Almost die. I'll try. Mary. I'll try, Ethan. That's the only promise I've got. It's enough. She reached for her daughter. He laid the baby in her arm. Mary looked down at Anna Grace for a long, long moment, and Anna Grace looked back at her mother with the serious, wide-open eyes of a newborn who had decided the world was worth examining. and Mary's face, which had been gray for so many days, got a small pink high in the cheeks. "Ethan." "Yeah." "The house. What about it? You still going to build it?" He looked at her. She looked at him. 11 years of riding. 11 years of not looking at a woman longer than it took to nod. 11 years of keeping his back to the wall, and his horse saddled, and his bag packed in his head. All of it came up in his throat and stuck there, and he swallowed it down, and it went. "Mary Whitaker," he said, "I am going to build that house, and I am going to paint a chair blue, and I am going to get a medium brown dog, and I am going to live in that house until I am an old man, and I am going to live in it with you if you will have me, and alongside you if you won't, and I am going to raise that little girl to be a woman who does not scream on the plains alone because she will never, not one day of her life, be alone. That is what I am going to do. That is the rest of my life." Mary's eyes filled. "Ethan Hale." "Yes, ma'am." "I will have you." "Mary." "I will have you, you fool man. Now go get me some water." He laughed. He laughed until his ribs hurt, and he went and got her water, and he carried it back, and he held the cup to her lips, and Anna Grace slept between them on the quilt, and outside the cabin a meadowlark started the first song of the morning, and Ethan Hale, who had not heard a meadowlark as music in 11 years, heard one now. He built the house. He built it that summer and into the fall, and it had 2 rooms and then 3 because he got ambitious, and it had a porch on the east side, and he built the chair himself, and it was a terrible chair, and Mary sat in it anyway, and he painted it blue. He got a dog from a farm woman who was giving a litter away, and the dog was brown and medium, and Anna Grace named it Biscuit, because that was the first word she said that wasn't Mama. And Biscuit slept at the foot of the porch every night for 11 years. Mary healed, slowly, not all the way. Something in her body had given up part of itself the day Anna was born, and she walked careful for the rest of her life, and she could not lift a sack of flour, and she never had another child. But she sat on the porch in the mornings, and she learned the names of the birds from a book the sheriff's wife gave her, and she taught them to her daughter, and she lived to be 64 years old, and she died in that blue chair in the sun, with Ethan's hand in hers, and Anna Grace grown and married, and standing in the yard with her own baby on her hip. Sheriff Daniel Reeves stood up in his boots at a dinner in Cheyenne 3 years after the shack, and he told a room full of newspapermen that a man named Cole Mercer had once worked for Senator Henry Aldrich, and Senator Henry Aldrich did not finish his term, and a bag of papers had not been necessary after all, because Reeves had remembered every name Mercer had said in that shack, and so had Ethan. And the 2 of them had waited 3 years for the right moment, and when it came, they did not miss. Ethan Hale lived to be 79. He outlived Mary by 15 years. He raised Anna Grace into a woman so much her mother's daughter that sometimes he had to turn his face away at the kitchen table to keep from weeping into his stew. And Anna Grace raised her own children on the same porch. And one of those children was named Sarah, for a red-haired woman Ethan had loved in Kentucky a long time before. And Ethan taught little Sarah the names of the birds because her grandmother had taught him. Ethan Hale had turned his horse around on a summer afternoon in Wyoming because he had heard a woman scream, and he had stayed, and because he stayed, she lived. Because she lived, a daughter grew. Because a daughter grew, a man who had once been a ghost became a grandfather. And the house with the blue chair on the porch stood for 90 years after he was buried under the cottonwood beside his wife, and not one person who ever sat in that chair sat in it alone. A man does not heal by riding away from his grief. A man heals by turning his horse around. Ethan Hale turned his horse around, and that was the making of him.